Welcome back to the Stuff for Whatever podcast. Your host, B. Quanchi here. Before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me in the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe, which you can do here on YouTube. You can follow on Twitter for fun tweets and updates, and also follow on Twitch where I stream gaming. And right now, usually Thursday, Friday is my stream nights, but the stream VODs are also back here on YouTube. Be Quanchi all around, and those links are in the descriptions of the video, the Battle on channel, stuff like that, so it's not too hard to find. So we got a very special podcast for you this week. I guess just gonna randomly pop off is that when I was running errands, I got some candy today since it's almost Easter, and this my few little favorites Easter candy is I always love the Starburst jelly beans. Those are the best Easter candy. You know, you can at me, you can argue with me, whatever, but like those are the best because the very best thing about them is that they don't have that disgusting black licorice jelly bean that I hate. And they're always good too. Like I feel like some jelly beans, is it the Brash brand or whatever, or some of the other ones, I feel like they can be a little too chewy sometimes, but Starburst, they are the goat when it comes to jelly beans. I feel like they only make them for Easter. They should make them year round because jelly beans are eaten year round. Kind of. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think that. I don't think like jelly beans like the go-to candy. Like when people eat candies, like maybe they're like the gummy candies or chocolates or um, Skittles or whatever. It feels like around Easter that's when jelly beans shine the most. But I don't know why Starburst limit jelly bean. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if you have to really look for them, but I only see them around during Easter time, and that's when I have to grab them. And I get a little cheap chocolate bunny too, so I still have that to eat. But I was very tempted to get one of those bigger chocolate bunnies because that's kind of nostalgic for me too. I don't want to talk too much about Easter, but this is a kid we always grew up with. For some reason we kind of treated Easter as like a mini Christmas. I'm not sure if others had that too. In the morning, you come to Easter baskets, and it's candy, and also we get a gift to like a toy or a video game, like a very small scale compared to like Christmas morning. But we actually got like video games and toys. It had like siblings close to my age too, so it's kind of a thing. And then of course we did like the painting Easter eggs and hunting for Easter eggs, and also remember like the plastic eggs too that were hide around with, and they put a couple quarters in. Like the plastic eggs may have like a dollar in quarters and stuff like that. And I feel like we didn't eat the eggs too much. I feel like my mom, uh, maybe I think she made double eggs with them. Like I think for a lot, we did actually eat hard boiled eggs, but I think a lot of times like it is like it's like one of those things when it comes to like hard boiled eggs, like you can only eat so many. Especially as a kid, I think that's like the big snack for kids. It could vary. I feel like the fun is just like coloring them, and then you get all these hard boiled eggs, and like, okay, now what? But I don't remember what's that dish. It's been a long time. Like when they like get a hard boiled egg and like fry it. I had to look that up real quick. Okay, what I was thinking is a Scotch egg, and I was like looking at a picture of it, and I don't think it's quite hard boiled like when it's cooked because it looks like the yolk is still not like 100. I'm not sure. Okay, I think it's more like a soft boiled egg that's like wrapped in sausage and fried or something like that. But that's why I think it's Scotch eggs. It's been a good while because it had that like an appetizer once at like a gastropub. But yeah, got me some candy, and also got the. I really like the chocolate with a shell from Cadbury. Their little eggs. Not the cream eggs are really good too. Although sometimes I feel like those can be a little much, like a Cadbury cream egg. But Cadbury also makes like those little chocolate eggs, kind of like a big fat M&Ms. I think M&M also do like their versions of that too. Like it's a maybe more of a egg shaped M&M that's a little bigger, candy coated. But I like the Cadbury ones a little bit more. So I got those chocolate candy eggs, a cheap little chocolate bunny, and of course the Starburst jelly beans. So puts in the comments like what is the best Easter candy of all time, and of course it has to be Starburst jelly beans. And also, I'm kind of curious if anyone else grew up with like getting gifts, like waking up to Easter morning to get gifts in your Easter baskets besides just candy and all that. But that's a little start of my day. And then I did want to talk a little bit about video games. So I announced a new Kingdom Hearts game, Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm not sure when they plan on having it released because I think it was just an announcement trailer. It looks kind of cool, but I don't know. The story looks, I don't know. It feels like they're taking what made Kingdom Hearts with the character design. Although I fell off the Kingdom Hearts bandwagon a long time ago. Because we were like being excited for Kingdom Hearts 3, like, oh, that's going to be the next game, but then you have all these spin-offs come off on different consoles, like, oh, this is on a DS and this is on a PSP and all that. I think the only ones I really played is like the first two games and Chain of Memories when it was on the Game Boy Advance. I know there's a collection out there, like some good ones. I hear this, don't get the cloud version on Switch because I heard those aren't. I heard mixed things, but I think mostly bad. But I know if you have a good PC, you can get them from, I think, the Epic Store. I'm tempted to do that because I don't have like the PS4. It's like all my major consoles. I don't have major consoles. I just have like the Switch in my computer. But I think what kind of fell off is that just waiting for Kingdom Hearts to be like, oh, is it gonna, since PS2 is like running this course, like, oh, it's gonna come on the PlayStation 3, okay, and get excited for that. And it take like 14 years for Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out. Because I think the series just had its 20th anniversary, and that's why they announced the fourth game. But I think that kind of burnout of like hoping for the next main game and just seeing all these spin-offs. Even though I haven't played the spin-offs at all, but I know they kind of like reported them and all that. So, and a lot of times when you hear people talk about Kingdom Hearts, like sometimes you feel like embarrassed and stuff like that. Like, oh, I thought it was so cool as a kid, but like maybe like the story and the writing and all that, it's a little lame at times, almost cringy, but people still say like the gameplay holds up pretty well. So yeah, and I remember like God, it's probably like 8 or so years, but I still had a PlayStation 2, even though I never got the PlayStation. Well, I did get a PlayStation 3, but much later, and I haven't used it that much. But I did revisit those games too as an adult, and yeah, some fun times. But I don't know if anyone else had that like burnout feeling, like just dropped off the Kingdom Hearts bandwagon just because delays and all these spin-offs on different platforms and all that. But maybe someday I'll just check out those little mixes that they have or collections of the games. And then I also want to talk about this, like a little small blurb I saw on Twitter, but one of my favorite games too is the Chrono Trigger series and the spiritual successor, Chrono Cross. Just came out with this like updated release. Like it's like a port to current platforms and all that. And it looks really cool. The only thing I heard bad about is like the frame rate and like maybe like graphic wise is not really much of a step up. I don't know what to expect too much when it comes to like this updated ports. Like I feel like I mentioned this before, but like the Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy that came out, that looked kind of bad because it's like one of those things like how much you want to have it facelift, but stay true to the original release of the game. So I'm not expecting too much. It's kind of like on my to-do list. I'm almost thinking about when I buy it, like stream it online on my gaming channel, which you can on Twitch, which you can subscribe to and follow or whatever. But yeah, what I bring this up is like someone mentioned that they censored a character in the game. I forget the character's name, but she's like a 9-year-old girl. Kind of wears like a dress and stuff like that. I think she is kind of like a knight character with like, kind of like, I think she has like a sword and a shield as a weapon, but she has like almost like a tutu like dress. But people are poking out like they censored her so you don't see her panties underneath. Like, not too bad, but you know, like when the dress is a little poofy and kind of like blows up a little bit, you can see little bloomers underneath. And I don't know if like people just trolling or if they're that serious, but like getting mad at like censorship and like, oh, you should just play the original version because they censor video games and it's getting out of control and stuff like that. And then people like, you know that character is like 9 years old and stuff like that. Again, I just look at it like, I don't know, like you look into like a weird, strange world from the outside of a window. Like, are people that serious, or they're just like playing it up for a bit? But I'm sure if they're that mad when it comes to quote unquote censorship of a game, like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, that character design, you know, even if it was like a a character of age, like over 18. Like we don't need to be constantly seeing the underwear and stuff like that, even if it's not like explicit or meant to be sexualized and stuff like that. That's a weird word because again, we're talking about a 9-year-old character, and like, do people get really that upset when it comes to censorship? Because I also find that kind of interesting too when it comes to video games. I think a lot of times when it comes to localizations from other countries, I feel like with I know the Did You Know Gaming channel, I think they have a small video, but I wonder if they did like a collection of videos when it comes to censorship. But like one of the oldest one is like crosses or like religious imagery, like they would like really edit that out and censor that, like tombstones can be a cross or anything like that. So I know that was a big one when localizing games to US. And then I also did some interesting stuff too. I forget which country it was edited or censored. It's kind of weird when you talk about censorship, but when you like make edits or changes, like it's not quite overall censorship. But in Super Mario Odyssey, he has like a pirate costume, and I almost want to say, was it China, the Chinese version or something like that, where they edited a costume, like they removed his eye patch, and they changed the name of the costume, like a nobleman, I think is what they called it. That's kind of interesting. And I know like as a big thing for Australia is not to have the ability to hurt kids or child characters and stuff like that. So I think that's why you don't see that too much in video games. And I think Fallout, that series had that, because I'm not sure, I haven't played too much of that series myself, but I think like the first game you can, and I think it's on that Did You Know Gaming channel too that talks about it. But I think like maybe the second game like had an achievement, like not like an achievement, but like a perk or something like that when it involved like hurting kids or a title, something like that. But they kind of left over in the game, but then it was like taken out. But you can still find it if you like mine or look into the data and files and stuff like that. But I feel like Fallout caused that too. Like you can't hit kid characters and stuff like that. It's a big thing in Australia, and also gambling too. Because I think wasn't this more for like UK? I can't remember the game, but I know this from Did You Know Gaming. But like you can make like in-app purchases or whatever, like DLC, and like you go to the shop, you see like a little bunny character, and when you say, "Oh no, I changed my mind," you get sad. But then they say, "Hey, you can't have the character be sad," like to emotionally manipulate kids into spending money and stuff like that. Because I think it was real world money, like actual purchasing something in the game. So this like changed it to be very like neutral, like fair enough, and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Not that stuff gets edited just for the sake of being more like avoid an adult rating or mature rating and stuff like that, just for different laws and how things. Yeah, in gambling, that's another one too. I think it's also like in the UK or in Europe, but like a lot of the Pokemon Game Corner stuff gets. I'm not sure if it gets completely cut or really changed. Like I think it definitely get rid of like the slot machines and stuff like that. But he really like big about gambling. I'm not sure if other countries had huge issues with gambling, and I'm not sure because I know, of course, in the U.S., like I'm not sure of all the laws because I know like we have some casinos in Arizona, and I know in California they do, but it's like if it's on the Indian, not Indian, but Native American reservation, then it's okay. I feel like we have more. I know how like one's not too hard to go to, like drive to. They even get advertised on billboards too. So I'm not sure when it comes to gambling laws, but I know like Nevada with like Vegas and Reno, like those are the big casinos and stuff like that too. And it's funny, like speaking of like gambling, I know in Arizona the sports betting has been more of a thing. Like it passed, so I always hear ads or see ads for like whatever sports betting app, and every time I hear it on the radio, like they always give it to them like have a gambling addiction, call this number. So that's one thing I don't know too much about, like gambling and casinos and stuff like that, is if it's like kind of compare like gambling addiction to like drug addiction, like the hard drug addiction and stuff like that. But I guess it makes a lot of money. I'm not sure like how taxes work or revenue when it comes to get big casinos. Like if it's that a good thing for the state for taxes and whatever. But I always think that interesting. I guess one last thing I want to talk about with censorship in video games, just because I can't think of too many examples, but I know in Paper Mario, the Thousand Years Door, the one for the GameCube, the character, I believe it's Vivian. Like she has the three sisters, but Vivian I think it was more explicit in like the Japanese game that um, they were a boy and it's like a transgender character now, but they like completely cut that out in the American release. But I thought that was kind of like a shame. Like that would have been really interesting. Like if they can be like a small little tidbit of her character in the story that like a transgender female and stuff like that. Yeah, because I think it's a lot of the stuff when it comes to like gay or whatever that it gets a little touchy and like, hey, we want to like have good ratings and not have too many controversies and stuff like that. Also, I think it's like too bad of a word to say in the U.S., but I hear like spaz is a very offensive word in like the UK, like the R word for people who are mentally. Not that too many people even listen to me. I don't want to like say the wrong thing, but like the mentally challenged or differently able when it comes to mental state. That word, but spaz is like the equivalent of that. So I've seen that some games. I think even like a Mario game had that, and they got some controversies and stuff like that too when it was kept in like the I think the PAL version. PAL is the term to use for like Europe and all that, at least for maybe the UK. But I think that's interesting. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, kind of like a transition from the transgender character from Super Mario or Paper Mario, is that this story I heard this on the radio, but I'm not sure how big it blew up. But it was about a teacher in Brook Rosendale School. Uh, Ray Schuyler, a first grade teacher, talking to the students about being transgender and all that. And there's been some backlash. I'm not sure where that is because I know people like talking about like the Florida Don't Say Gay bill, all that. And I'm not sure if like transgender grouped into that or whatever. I think just because the Don't Say Gay bills like includes that, but that's just the term people have been coining for that law. Okay, but this is in Boston, Massachusetts, so not quite a fact. But I just like looking at an article and kind of like mention that as well. And the one thing that, and I'm gonna say that as a gay man, I want to put that out there too, is that the thing about like the video, I'm not sure what the video went viral, was like talking to somebody, or like it was like a Zoom call. Maybe it was like to the recorded Zoom call to the class, but they were talking about like how when we're born, like the doctor guesses if the gender of the child or the baby, and said if they guess correctly, then that's a cisgender, and if they guess incorrectly, it's transgender. And I think that kind of like, well, what it kind of makes me feel like that's stupid is that saying that a doctor guesses, that I think that's a little disrespectful to the doctor and all that. But when you see a baby, it's pretty much objective. Like, what anatomy do you see, and all that? Because of course, like the baby doesn't know what gender it is in terms of gender identity, so it can only go off like what you objectively can observe. Whereas it's like, okay, this is a baby boy, this is a baby girl, but I can also get like how having that fixation, like, okay, this is a boy, so it's definitely a boy, and that's that, and it gets a lot more complicated than that down the road. But I think as babies become kids, become teenagers, become adults, like they become more aware of themselves, their identity in a sense. So, and I feel like I don't have like too much room to talk in terms of transgender because it's not something I can personally relate to. But I just like I think that's where a lot of people getting hung up, and even me, if I'm honest, is that telling like doctors guess the gender of the of your boy or girl. No, it's not guessing. No, it's just not. I think that's also why like if that just feels wrong, like why would you continue to listen to this person, even if they have like good things to say, more like constructive things to talk about when it comes to gender and identity and all that? Because yeah, I don't know. I just see it's like one of those things that doesn't quite rub me the wrong way, but it feels like if there were more like role models to talk about like transgender being transgender, having that life journey, like saying a doctor is guessing what they were at birth is like, can I really take you seriously? Kind of. And people also arguing too that this was to a first grade class, and I can see that too. I do think it's very important to educate kids when it comes to orientation and gender identity and stuff like that. Not that if it applies to them directly, but to understand that, hey, they're gonna have friends, they're gonna have family members, or just encounter people in life that have that life journey, and kind of have the open mind and all an understanding of it. Like maybe it was like to like fifth graders or barely teenagers, like, hey, these are some things about gender identity. Like, I can get from a parent's perspective, like, you don't want to talk too much about like sex and all that, but it's important to know, like, hey, like this is what this is like what a transgender person is like in terms of like if what kind of treatments they do, whether like before and again I feel like I'm kind of losing my train of thought too, just like thinking about it, because I'm not like a uh, an expert on it. But I think it's important to have that discussion, but to the point that they can fully like retain that information, really understand and digest it, like versus talking about kids that like in their first grade and all that. And I'm not sure, like, because again, like when I hear some things about like transgender, and I'm not sure if it's just like the quote unquote woke community, but I feel like some people get a little bit oversensitive. Although a lot of tough times, I think it's definitely warranted. Like, I can't really think of like good examples. I think get blown out of proportion. Like if you say like if a transgender woman you were talking about, oh, so you were born a boy, and if they get insulted by that, I can kind of see, but it does kind of make sense too in terms of yeah, they were technically born as a boy. But one term I really like, not that I use it myself, but like when they say, oh, you were assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth, I feel like that's like, okay, you're not like talking down and like insulting somebody for correcting them. Because I feel like a lot of times with like the woke moment too, sometimes I feel like it's more about reprimanding the person and then trying to correct them versus like, no, that's not quite right, and kind of like educating them too. So I feel like sometimes the woke, maybe it's a small like group of people in the bigger group that have the louder voices, but I feel like a lot of times if you like standing up for like other groups, whether it be different races, genders, capabilities, in terms of like disabilities and stuff like that too, like if you feel like someone's like doing something wrong or even like being insulting, like be more educating them versus reprimanding them and like insulting them. Because if someone is like insulting you and being antagonistic or like all that, you like, okay, I don't want to listen to you, even if I'm clearly in the wrong. Because I've even seen some words like going back to transgender, like that I get like they're offensive and even outdated. Like I don't want to use this too directly, but like how some people will use slang to call like a car's transmission as a tranny, and then using that same word for transgender, like on the surface it doesn't sound too bad, but if I was in a position and someone called me that, like I think that wouldn't really be cool. And also another one, because I know it was like a big one on RuPaul's Race for the longest time, like the little opening segment at the beginning of the episode saying you got she-mail because it was like a play on email. But yeah, I can see how that one can be pretty offensive too, because it's like not respecting the gender of the person by calling them like both genders by saying she-mail. So some things are definitely outdated, and I think it's not wrong to like say express what terms you like to go by, like pronouns and stuff like that too, but kind of like be more in the education or like more educating a person and stuff like that versus saying, hey, you're being offensive, like you're wrong, you try to make the person feel like an asshole or something like that just because maybe they don't know any better or anything like that. Again, I feel like I'm kind of rambling and not know too much about that too. But I guess one last thing I want to talk about this podcast is I've been thinking about for a while, just kind of getting off. I don't want to say like getting off my chest, but I feel like just lately being that I'm kind of more like a apathetic person. Like it's kind of hard for me to feel things when it comes to like people, at least because I do care about a lot of stuff too. Of course, like family and close friends too. But I feel like when it comes to like relationships and dating and all that, I mentioned this on like a few podcasts, like the Jaden's animation video when she talked about being amor ace, like aromantic, asexual, and that kind of like rings a little bit true to me in a sense. Like, no, I'm not aromantic, but I'm not really seeking out romantic relationships or maybe putting the effort. And no, I'm not asexual, but again, I'm not like really seeking it out and having those kind of experiences because like, yeah, I'm definitely a gay guy. I'm definitely a gay male, and it would, I like the idea of having like a relationship, maybe more committed partner, like a boyfriend or husband, but it's been a long time, honestly. And then also feel like, what, that's okay. So I'm not sure if this like would help anyone like listening, if anyone's listening this far, but I feel like I don't know if it's having an apathetic nature. I feel like that on other areas of my life too. Like I'm really bad at names, but not just because I'm bad at remembering them. Is that I'm really bad at learning them. Like I feel like I don't care that much. I feel bad sometimes, like at work, like oh, I'm actually going to be working with this person a lot and stuff like that. So I make sure I remember the name. I feel bad if I forget someone's name and could do like the whole like, hey you, hey guy. I'm thinking better with that, but I feel like a lot of times like just have this like mentality like I don't care about meeting new people and like yeah, also like with neighbors too because I've pretty much been living in apartment complexes like most pretty much all my adult life, and like I rarely talk to my neighbors. Like I have like a few that like they see my dogs around too, so I think that that kind of connects. But a lot of times like I don't really talk to my neighbors. I don't really care to know about their lives and stuff like that. And I think that's okay. Like I think some people really enjoy like meeting new people, knowing new people, and stuff like that. But I feel like I don't know. I'm not sure if like being apathetic is like a term because I hear terms like empathetic, like an epath. I'm not sure like an apath is a thing or not. But I just feel like, hey, if this is why I'm single for so long, I think that's okay. Because to be honest, there's times I feel crushes, I feel attractions and stuff like that. But I think one thing is just it takes a lot for things to feel real, like genuine or authentic and stuff like that. I do use like those apps, and honestly, sometimes I feel like there's no point. Like, uh, I'm just gonna say Tinder, just because that's like the general one, but I don't use Tinder. But it's like going on Tinder and like this doesn't really mean much to me. I don't really feel anything. Like these are just thumbnail pictures of people. They're not people to me. And even if you get like messages, it almost feel like, especially when you get like short, like one word messages and stuff like that. Like some of the gayer ones, like you get woofs or something like that, and I don't know, it just feels like it's hard for me to care when I feel like the other person doesn't care. Although maybe it's just like trying to make icebreakers that are very like superficial, but still an effort. But to me, I just like I don't know. I just really hard for me to feel those kind of things. It's like not that I don't want to, I just feel like no one's saying the right thing, and I don't even know what the right thing is, so maybe I won't hear it. But also, I just feel like yeah, that's okay. Like, because that's like some people get really focused. Like, hey, I don't have a romantic partner. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a girlfriend. So I'm single, and being single is bad because the goal is to be with somebody or even have a family and all that. And like, if it happens, I would really like it to happen, but it's just not. And I'm not sure if there's like there's probably a lot of hangups too. Like, it kind of feels like, hey, if I'm going to invest with like a romantic partner or dating stuff like that, then that's may lead to bigger life changes. And like, do I really want my life to change? Even if I want these changes, it kind of feel like, okay, that's gonna make things more. But it makes more things more real. But then I want things to be real, so it's kind of like that weird like, hey, if I just don't care, that this makes things easier. So I don't know. I just wanted maybe some people have like more ideas or advice or even resources, but I feel like the word apathy just kind of like makes sense to me, if that makes sense. But it's just kind of like, hey, I'm not dating. Hey, I'm not getting action and stuff like that. But I'm okay with it. And it's like, not that I don't have the desire. It's just that it's really hard for me to care and all that. But I don't know. Maybe someday, maybe make more of an effort and to meet people. Because I feel like also when it comes to like the gay things, like a lot of times I just assume people are straight into proving gay. So sometimes I kind of like rely on the apps or bars to like meet other gays. But there's still like groups or even like sports or things in the community that I sometimes think about but never really pursue. So it just kind of lets me be maybe emotionally lazy and maybe emotionally guarded. And I don't know. But I just kind of like, hey, just feel like, hey, I don't care. Just kind of makes sense sometimes when it comes to like relationships and potential romantic partners or potential romantic breakups or heartache and stuff like that. So that's one thing too. Is like it, even though I feel like I'm missing out some really good experiences and all that, I'm definitely also missing some really bad and crazy ones too. But that's life. Like if life was perfect, then I don't know. Then we wouldn't have so many hardships, and I think those hardships also make us stronger too. I even had that time like that, like feeling more emotionally like devastated that this didn't work out with this person and stuff like that. So it's kind of like you get to this point in life, like I know what I want, but I don't know how to get it, or I don't even know if I'm going to find it. But I'd rather never find it than finding something that I really don't want, or finding something that's really going to hurt me. So I don't know. Maybe that's another way to just be kind of like guarded and kind of protect myself when it comes to like it's easier not to care, not to put yourself out there, but also would like to do that too, put myself out there. But I think just like the word again, the word apathy, feeling apathetic, and it's again, it's not like I don't care about everything. It's just like I don't know. It's just like meeting new people. I have a hard time feeling like wanting it or putting myself out there. So basically, like I don't care. I'll just stay in. I don't care. I'll be single. Stuff like that. And that's perfectly fine too. So I don't know if that helps anyone who needs to hear that. Like, hey, even if you don't have this, you don't have a boyfriend, you don't have a girlfriend, you haven't had a date in years. You know, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know. I think it makes sense that that I'm not going about like this area of my life when it comes to romance the wrong way, or at least wrong for me. So, yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So, that'll be for the podcast for this week. So, again, the best way to support me in the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. And be quantity on almost social medias with those links in the description of videos. You can go on Twitter, you can go on Twitch, all that. And gonna be giving more. One thing that I wanted to end this podcast in is I'd like to do more gaming in a sense, but I feel like since I don't have an audience, it kind of feels like just kind of don't overdo it. But there's been time like I check out like I kind of want to be more a platform for like, indie games. I play more indie games on stream, but then again, like I only want to stream 2 nights a week just because hey, I have a full time job and this isn't really my bread and butter. Not that that's the most important things, but I kind of think like I've been kind of wish listing stuff on Steam and kind of like following stuff on Twitter. So and I kind of like have that nature of saying, "Hey, this is really cool," and I want to show it off. Like, "Hey, I think this game's cool," and I want other people to see this game or TV show or movie and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like the person like shares stuff that, especially if I don't feel like it's the mainstream. So I guess kind of end that note too. If things work out a little bit more, that'd be pretty cool. Like I would like to do like more streams, more games. But then I don't want to like buy like so many games just to play once on stream. I'll probably enjoy it. I have that guilty like library on Steam. Also, I do put my Steam link profile and videos in and about on the channel, so you can also check that out too. I haven't really done much with that socially. Like I have like my friend, my brother that are on my friends list, but yeah. So, anyways, thanks for listening, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.